Welcome to Candidly Creative. I'm Ilani.
And I'm Lisa.
This is where we connect with people, their ideas, and passions through conversations. Hi there. Welcome to this week's edition of Candidly Creative. I'm Ilani.
And I'm Lisa.
Right? Today we will be welcoming Fiona Ghiglione, founder of Mothering Girls. She's a mindfulness educator. She has wonderful programs and is intended to empower mothers, preteens, daughters, especially, right, to connect and grow girl power. Now, let's find out more from Fiona what her program is all about. Let's say hi to Fiona. Hi.
Hello.
Fiona.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Nice meeting you.
Yes, lovely to be here.
So how's everything over there? You doing well? Family?
Very good. Yes. Very good. Good. So happy to have the kids back at school.
All right. So they've been how long have they been back in school? Been a while or?
Now for the whole year. But you know, they have vacations, so it's always nice after a vacation to have that free time again.
Okay, that's good. All right. So we met you through I think the empowering girls, right?
Mothering girls.
Mothering girls. So
Yes.
before we get into in depth of what it's all about, which we think is like really wonderful.
Yes.
Maybe you like to tell us a little bit about your own journey. Who Fiona is.
Yeah. Since I know you've been to and lived in different parts of the world, so let's talk first about Fiona's journey before
Sure.
Mothering Girls.
Okay, wonderful. So here are a few facts about Greek Australian actually, but I think I almost consider myself a global nomad now because I've spent almost more time outside of Australia than I have inside. So that's definitely true. I'm also, I suppose my background is I'm a research psychologist with a specialization in mindfulness. And I'm also a mum of two preteen girls and founder, like you said, of the organisation Mothering Girls. But I suppose getting a bit deeper, if you were to ask me, say, what is a word that describes you? I would definitely say curious.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I ask a lot of questions about everything. And I've been always quite fascinated about how as human beings we respond to challenges in life. Mm-hmm. So to give you a bit of background, I was raised by a single mum who did an amazing job with myself and my sister. But she had her own challenges, which limited her ability in some ways to be able to show up to us emotionally. And so when I was into my adulthood, I started experiencing anxiety and didn't really know how to deal with it, had never learned. Well, who does? No one ever sits you down to teach you these things, right? But I found myself, I was at uni, I was in my fourth year of uni, and I found myself on this path of exploration, I suppose you could say. And I discovered something called mindfulness-based stress reduction. It was an 8-week course. I went and did it. And part of me could not believe the change, I suppose, over the course of those 8 weeks. And there was a lot of questions that I had. Mm-hmm. How is it this thing called mindfulness or meditation has changed the way that I relate to my emotions, the control that I feel like I have over my emotions, the sense of calm that I have. So I was really, really interested in that. And at that stage in Australia, there wasn't a lot of research in mindfulness at all. It was very, very nascent. So I said, I'm going to do a PhD. I spent 4 years researching Zen monks, looking at people who practice mindfulness, people who didn't practice mindfulness.
Right.
And specialized, I suppose, in what happens. I wanted to know that, and that was what my research was on. But that eventually led in. I mean, during that time, I had my children, and that led into, okay, how can, as a mother, I use this through practicing myself, but also how can I teach my girls this early on, as I wish I had when I was younger, to face things like COVID, to face the things that is being thrown at them. So that's a little bit of a background.
Okay.
It sounds.
And I think it's quite amazing, like you through all the posts that you've done on Instagram, and went through your blog post. It's quite amazing, though. I think you do concentrate on moms and daughters, but some of the things that you share, the tips are very, very useful even for adults. I find myself just like, going through that and just like, oh my gosh, like that makes sense. Those are even the things I can apply, even adults, like, you don't need to, exclusively be you and your daughter, but it's just as people, it's something that we can learn from all that.
Yes. And if you have a look at when in my life I got so much benefit out of it to start with, it was pre-children, right? So yes, I think you're right. It applies to everyone. Yeah.
Right. Was going to bring up the thing about, your curiosity about, life and your experiences and stuff like that led. Now, what about, so now we're going to move on to mothering girls, like about setting that up and with the programs and everything. How did that come to be?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my organization, Mothering Girls, is, I founded that to help prepare our preteen girls for the teens. There's a lot of fear around raising teens right now. And you probably heard, wait till they're teens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Teens, or, talking about, hormones or whatever else. Like, there's a lot of fear at being thrown to mums about that period. And I'm not going to lie, there are a lot of risks that our girls are facing as they go through the teens, with social media, with cyberbullying, with eating and body confidence. There are a lot there. But I hear a lot of mums saying there's not much that we can do. We just have to strap ourselves in and for the wild ride. But I actually completely disagree with that, because I think there's a lot that we can do, and the time that we can best impact our relationship with our girls to prepare them for the teen years is in the preteen years, the time when our girls are between childhood and teenage years. They're still close enough to us that they're listening to us.
Right.
Value our relationship with them, and most of them, can only say most, but some of them already have they don't have technology, right? So we have their attention. And so it was just interesting listening to parents along the way, watching the kids that I was teaching mindfulness to, and I thought, there needs to be something out there. There's so much resources for mums of babies, toddlers, teen years, and then there's this gap 4 years for preteens that we can use, and no one was really doing much about it. So I just thought, well, that's really something I want to do. I became passionate. My girls are preteens, and I see this close up. So I really wanted to do it. The other thing, I suppose, that I saw a lot of is there's a lot of courses for parents to send their kids to, which is great, right? But I was seeing a lot of the difficulties with children were coming from the parent, right? The parents' anxiety, the parents' worry, the parents' expectations, and I was thinking, to really do something powerful here, we need to look at the mum and the daughter together as a unit in order to be able to really give them the best chance of thriving in the teen years,
That's exactly what I love what Creaky does and what you do. We kind of like intertwined in that, in that little space. I know we use art as a, we use art as a means to just kind of, like you said, try to get them together. And it's just parents, okay, what we find is that parents are afraid of their art skills. I mean, that's the hurdle that we kind of like have to jump over, because when parents see creative, they think of arts and they like, okay, we, like they look at it, oh, we're not that good in art. So they're kind of like not expecting their child
Imposing their
that
beliefs.
fear, like you said, they're afraid, so they're like turning away from the t-shirt and the art, thinking that, oh, okay, they're not gonna, they're not gonna do it, they don't know it, because they're imposing their fear on it. So that's how
So we find that quite interesting. Like for most parts, it is the parents who saw, and we always say, when you do something like arts and craft, and I think it's quite interesting as adults, we don't spend that much time on craft ourselves because it's arts, because we just associate that with kids. So
one of the things I think is very powerful about what you're doing is that when I sit with my children doing art, it's the time when they open up the most. Do you know what I mean? There's something there with art. It's also the same with music, is they feel permission, or they feel calm enough to talk. And it's such a good view.
It's just the small things, and I think sometimes we forget. It doesn't need to be like big vacations and things like that. It's just like those small moments that you can get kids to like talk about even little things that they're thinking about just while doing art. And I think you're right. It's just like that sense of just being calm, or I can just see whatever I want. And
I would say a safe space. It's almost they feel safe talking when doing that.
And also, hey, it's a good chance to laugh and to just go with the flow. It's a fun time.
That's right, exactly. Over the years, right, what the differences that you've seen in different parts of parenting? I know we talked about you being in different parts of the world, so you've seen a lot of differences in parenting styles, right? The parenting ways of developing emotional intelligence, and
are there any common, I guess, problems, I think, among most culture that you've experienced that strikes, if there's any at all?
That was the word I was looking for.
I think in terms of parenting styles, I don't think you can attribute a style to a culture or a style to a country, right? Because within each one, there's such a variety.
Right.
But I think technology would have to be one of the biggest challenges that everyone's facing right now. And I think it's we all have brains and technology has a direct impact on our brain, especially a developing brain. And it doesn't matter where you come from, what your experience is, that will impact you the same, right? So I think parents of all types and backgrounds are really questioning like how they can manage this. I mean, because this is the first generation that have had iPads and phones and whatever else since they were born, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on technology?
Okay. Look, in my house, technology is obviously it's not like it's not forbidden. I try to teach my children, obviously, to manage technology. Right. However, I have a pretty black and white view on phones. I don't think my child has a need for a phone. And I think, obviously every parent has to assess when they present phones. If they need, like my daughter wanted to have a phone to call me from, wherever she was going. And I said to her, I'll get you the old digital phone. It just has data. and she wants to call me, that's fine. She can call me. But in terms of social media, I think delaying social media is the best thing you can do for your child. And you won't be popular with them probably, and there's ways we can tackle that. But the later the better. It's a lot of research to show that the costs outweigh the benefits, you know.
So we had like a really interesting conversation about gadgets in one of our episodes as well, where I think you're right. It's personal. You have to know your child to sort of like know when to introduce it. But we've known parents that introduce it as young as 7 months old, which obviously made the development a bit problematic for the child. So is there a magic number you think
for you? I mean, just your thoughts.
Like, yeah, I'm just like asking around, like
giving
parents. Yeah.
Look, if phones need to be introduced because the parent's not there or whatever else, first of all, I'd say I don't think there is a magic number, so I'm not even going to say that. But what I do think is that parents need to focus on skill building, helping children's attention span. They need to help them be aware of the impact that the technology has on them. So sometimes, for example, my daughter might be on the iPad. I'll give her an extra hour or whatever. So let's say she's been watching a movie for 2 hours. She starts to really get grumpy, doesn't want to give it back to me.
Yeah.
I say, it happens to me too. How do you feel right now? You've been on there for 2 hours, which is longer than normal. How do you feel? And we have a discussion about that, right? And we talk about things she can do and about how she'd feel better to be able to do other things that she enjoys and switch her attention. I just think that kids need to be really aware of the effect that the technology has on them and have days when they don't have any, and then talk to them about that. How did you feel today? What are them? Like, I think that the emotional awareness around technology needs to be there, because otherwise children don't realize what is happening, you know, in it. Likes, and all of a sudden their self-esteem is impacted. Those conversations need to be had too once they finally get it. We need to have those conversations with them just as we would with anything else in their lives, you know.
Right. Couldn't agree with you more. And then I know with children, if they're not exposed to it, I mean, you know, if they're not pushed towards it, they're not even gonna feel that they missed it. You know what I mean? If they grew up to understand the benefits of misusing a gadget, not using it, it's not going to matter to them necessarily, really. So that's my take on it.
Look, I mean, the limit need to come from the parents, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. So is what you do with mothering girls, is it most of it trying to educate parents?
Yeah, talk about the program. Let's talk about the programs and the nature of it.
Okay, so at the moment, COVID has messed up my mode of delivery. I can't do retreats. So what I'm trying to do right now is put all of my workshops online. And look, the course that I run is the parent and the child go through it together. So there are different videos for the parent, different videos for the child, but the activities are activities that can be discussions and things that they can do together during the course of the week to apply what they're learning. And there are different modules. There are modules on friendship. There are modules on, you know, emotion. There are modules on technology, and it obviously parents need to assess their own technology use, in the sense that, you know, if kids are watching them use their technology in certain ways, like, for example, if you're sitting at the dinner table and everyone's on their devices, that's something that is problematic, right? So look, my courses are for mothers who are willing to who want to have their girls benefit from this, but they need to also look at themselves as well. And I think that there's so much value there for those mums that are willing to open themselves up to that. You know, they can be growing at the same time as their daughters, and I think there are a lot of mums out there a little bit stuck, especially during COVID, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, like I say, it's like it benefits. It's just not for the daughters, like, you know, it's just for the, I mean, there's so much growth, like you can even be as a person to even help yourself out.
Okay, we went to an all-girl missionary school here. Now, there was a lot of recent drama about the school recently, but I believe in the benefit of an all-girl education, and I know you focus on that, right? Okay, I want to hear you talk about it, because I know I can go on about how I feel about the benefit of having, an all-girl education and focusing on educating our girls and building their confidence and esteem, in the process. I mean, there's a million benefits to it. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to split myself in two here, and I'll tell you what I think on both sides.
Okay.
Because I think there are a lot of things that are specific to girls that they need to handle that boys don't. And I think in that way, if the education system focuses on preparing girls the space to be able to explore themselves and explore who they are as individuals and have that confidence, I think that's amazing. On the other hand, so one of my passion topics is kindness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, how can we increase kindness in girls? Because, there is a lot of problems in schools with girls excluding each other, relational aggression, all of the more exposure our girls get to diversity, the better. And that includes gender. I think, they need to see the difference between cultures, which is part of the reason I'm so passionate about my girls understanding religions and cultures and living different experiences. But they also need to know that boys, they have differences as well. They have similarities, and kindness, kindness, you need to understand the similarities between humanity, but you also need to see and respect difference.
Exactly. Right. That is so true. That is so true.
So I think there's benefits from being in an all-girls school, yes, but I think you need to complement that with them getting exposure outside of school to diversity as well. Yeah.
So you won't be afraid of boys. So let's talk about like kindness. What are the things, like how can we develop that in girls to be kind to each other, even in business as adults? Sometimes simple gesture of being kind it's interesting. Some people don't really sort of like share
fully grasp the idea
of just just simply be kind. So like
soft skill, right? Yeah.
So how do we develop that? How do we cultivate that sense in children?
I think kindness begins with self-awareness. If we are able to empathize with other people in their situation and then act on that, we need to really be able to recognize our own feelings and in a way manage those feelings, right?
Yeah, right.
We can't see someone say, oh, look, that person is in pain and is suffering, whatever, if we haven't had pain and suffering, if we don't know what that feels like ourselves. So, and then I think the second thing is, it's very, very important in order to be able to step into someone else's shoes and say, this is my reality, but this person who sits next to me, they see that same thing differently, and that's okay. But I need to have a general idea of what that perspective is in order to be able to really just say, let me help you with that, or feel that empathy. for that other person. You really need to have an understanding of what their reality is. And they're complicated skills, but like I said, the earlier you can start with getting kids to identify their emotions, know what to do, express their emotions, and recognize emotions in others, that you're on your way to being able to get them to be kinder children. Yeah.
And that is the key part of building emotional intelligence and mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
That is the
and it's not easy. It's not easy because we're talking about things like children feeling super angry and wanting to throw something across the room, moments like that, you know, or children feeling sad and losing hope, moments like that. It's very difficult. And that's why if we can ourselves down moments like that, we can do that for our children too. We can guide them through that, you know. Yeah.
So it's definitely something that can be taught, because I think on a personal note, I think I've known like people who just like seem not having this empathy at all, and it's hard. Like, I think the debate is like, can you teach somebody? Or some people are just not equipped to have that understanding.
I think sometimes there's a bit of a cultural thing as well, of you know, not being called to be kind, practice of thanking people, you know, whether it be the security guard or, you know, someone at the shop or whatever. Like, if you have that practice of saying thank you to people, even if you don't know them, it's something that some societies, I suppose, maybe just aren't practiced in that. You know, they don't use it in their daily, and so we can change that.
I mean, it's so simple, isn't it? It's like, doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly.
And it's simple, just like a couple of seconds of thank you. Just, you know, it just makes everything just different.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. You know what, Fiona? You've brought up a lot of great points, and it's been great to hear you talk and hearing, you know, your perspective on things. So before we leave, right, where can folks find you? And, you know, to find out more about the next time you're going to run your program, you know, and register for it. You know,
yes. I think the best place to find me would be on Instagram. I don't know.
There's a lot of cool stuff on Instagram. So
yes,
correct.
Cool Instagram. So check it out, folks.
And feel free to reach out to me with questions.
So what's your Instagram address?
So it's Mothering Girls. Mothering and Girls. Yeah.
And also, I think you have a website, a blog, right? You have a blog as well?
Website, yep. www.motheringgirls.com.
Okay, cool. It's all there. So yeah, if anybody wants to get connected to Fiona, definitely
you check it out. We'll post the link to all her social medias and website down in the description below. So with that, thank you so much, Fiona.
I just hope people,
it's such a pleasure.
It's been
such a pleasure, and keep up the good work with
we see the same to you.
We love what you're doing, and
we love what you're doing.
Like what we talked about, you know, like simple things like being kind and all that kind of things. I think people need to know that it doesn't
matters.
Need to be difficult, and it is possible.
So
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fiona.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Right?